My name is Chamora Tanner, and this is my 20 topic econ portfolio. The topics we're going to be discussing today is economics, microeconomics, macroeconomics, the principles of economics, scarcity, opportunity cost, supply and demand, comparative analysis, marginal analysis, incentives, efficiency, inflation, recession, tariffs, quotas, the cost of living, consumer price index, oligopoly, monopolies, and the safety net. Economics is a social science that studies how individuals, business, and governments and societies allocate scarce resources to satisfy their unlimited wants and needs. Understanding economics is important because it helps us to make better decisions, understand how the economy works, and improve our overall well being. Economics explores various topics such as production, consumption, distribution, pricing, market behavior, economic growth, and the impacts of policies and decisions on individuals and society. It consists of two main branches: microeconomics and macroeconomics, along with the fundamental principles. Microeconomics is the branch of economics that analyzes the behavior of individual economic agents such as consumers, firms, and markets, and how their interactions determine prices and quantities. Microeconomics examines how consumers make choices about which products to buy, how firms decide on production levels and pricing strategies, and how to supply demand for forces to determine market equilibrium. For example, microeconomics helps explain why some consumers are willing to pay a higher price for organic strawberries compared to conventionally grown strawberries due to their perceived health benefits and preference for pesticide-free produce. Macroeconomics is the branch of economics that studies the economy as a whole, focusing on collective variables such as GDP, inflation, and unemployment, and the policies that influence them. For example, during an economic recession, macroeconomics helps policymakers analyze the overall economy and implement measures to stimulate economic activity. For instance, if there is a significant increase in unemployment and a decline in consumer spending, policymakers may decide to lower interest rates to encourage borrowing and investment. Additionally, they may introduce fiscal stimulus packages such as increased government spending tax or tax cuts to boost aggregate demand and stimulate economic growth. These actions aim to address the broader economic challenges and promote stability and recovery at the macroeconomic level. The principles of economics that I mentioned before are fundamental concepts and theories that serve as the foundation for understanding economic behavior, decision making, and the functioning of markets and economies. Principles of economics include scarcity, opportunity cost, supply and demand, cooperative advantage, marginal analysis, incentives, and efficiency. And these are the principles of economics listed: scarcity, opportunity cost, supply and demand, comparative advantage, marginal analysis, incentives, and efficiency. The scarcity law says that resources are limited while human wants and needs are unlimited. This principle recognizes that choices must be made to distribute scarce resources efficiently. An example is, say there's a small island community and there's a limited amount of fresh drinking water available due to a drought. The scarcity principle of economics becomes evident as the community members must make choices about how to allocate the scarce water resources. They may decide to prioritize things that need water, like drinking, cooking, and while reducing the non essential activities for water, like watering plants or washing cars. The scarcity of water forces the community to make trade offs and prioritize its usage based on its limited availability. Opportunity cost is when making a decision, there's an opportunity cost. The value of the next best alternative that must be sacrificed. This principle highlights the trade off involved in decision making. Suppose you have $100 to spend and you're considering two options: going to a concert for $60 or buying a new video game for $60. Choosing to attend the concert means giving up the opportunity to purchase a video game and vice versa. The opportunity cost of going to the concert is the value of the video game foregone, which is $60. Similarly, the opportunity cost of buying the video game is the enjoyment experience of attending the concert. In this scenario, the opportunity cost represents the best alternative that must be sacrificed when making a decision. Now, supply and demand is the interaction between supply, or the quantity of goods or services producers are willing to offer, and demand, quantity of goods or services communities are willing to buy. determines the prices and quantities in the market. Imagine it's a hot summer day on a beach town. As the temperature rises, the demand for ice cream increases. People flock to the nearest ice cream shops. The higher demand for the ice cream creates an incentive for the shop owners to produce and supply more ice cream to meet the increased consumer demand. As a result, the ice cream shops may increase their production and stock up on ingredients and supplies. In this scenario, the demand for ice cream drives the supply side as the shops respond by increasing their production and stocking enough inventory to meet the consumer demand. Comparative advantage. This principle emphasizes that individuals, firms, or countries should specialize in producing goods or services in which they have a lower opportunity cost compared to others. It forms the basic gains from trade and specialization. Say country A specializes in wheat production while country B specializes in automobile production. Country A has a comparative advantage in wheat, and country B has a comparative advantage in automobiles. By focusing on their respective strengths and trading with each other, both countries can benefit from increased efficiency and expanded production possibilities. Marginal analysis says decisions are made by comparing the marginal benefits or additional benefits to the marginal cost or additional cost of an action or choice. Rational decision making involves choosing options where marginal benefits outweigh the marginal cost. Say a company is considering whether to reduce or sell an additional unit of a product. By conducting a marginal analysis, they compare the additional benefits and costs associated with producing that extra unit. If the marginal benefits outweigh the marginal cost, it will be profitable to produce and sell the additional unit. However, if the marginal costs exceed the marginal benefits, it may not be economically viable to produce the extra unit. Incentives. It says people respond to incentives, whether they are financial rewards, penalties, social recognition, or personal motivations. Understanding incentives help explain human behavior and the effects on economic outcomes. For example, a government implements tax incentives to promote the use of renewable energy sources. By offering tax credits or subsidies to individuals or businesses that install solar panels or invest in wind power, the government aims to incentivize the adoption of cleaner and more sustainable energy practices. These incentives encourage individuals and businesses to make environmentally friendly choices and contribute to reducing carbon emissions. Law of efficiency is achieved when resources are allocated in a way that maximizes overall societal welfare. Allocative efficiency occurs when resources are distributed to produce the goods and services that people value the most, while productive efficiency refers to producing goods and services using the fewest possible resources. An example of efficiency in actions, the manufacturing company seeks to improve its production process to achieve higher efficiency by streamlining operations, reducing waste, and optimizing resource allocation. The company aims to produce more output using the same or fewer resources. This pursuit of efficiency helps the company minimize costs, increase productivity, and improve overall profitability. Inflation is a sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services in the economy over time. It is primarily caused by factors such as increased demand, rising production costs, or expansionary monetary policies. When the price of goods and services such as housing, food, or transportation consistently rises over a period of time, it indicates inflation. An example that we are already familiar with of inflation is in 2023, the inflation in the United States led to increased gas prices. As the general price level across the economy rose with inflation, the cost of producing and distributing gasoline also increased. This upward pressure on costs was passed to consumers as gas was higher at the pump. Recession refers to a significant decline in economic activity, typically marked by a contraction in the gross domestic product or the GDP, increased unemployment, and reduced consumer spending. Another example that was sort of recent is the global financial crisis in 2008 to 2009 and the COVID-19 pandemic induced economic downturn in 2020 are examples of recessions that have severe impacts on the economic. A tariff is a tax or a duty imposed on imported goods or services, usually by the government to protect domestic energies, regulate trade, or generate revenue. For example, if a country imposes a 10% tariff on imported cars, it increases the cost of importing cars from other countries, making domestic cars relatively more competitive in the market. A quota is a restriction or limit placed on the quantity of goods or services that can be imported into a country during a specific time period. For example, a country may set an annual quota on the import of textiles, allowing only a certain amount to be imported per year. The cost of living refers to the amount of money needed to sustain a certain standard of living, including expenses such as housing, food, healthcare, and transportation. Example of how cost of living can be calculated is the cost of living can vary significantly across different cities or regions. For example, the cost of living in New York City is generally higher in smaller towns due to higher housing prices, transportation costs, and other expenses. Because the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI, is a measure of the average change in prices of a basket of goods and services commonly consumed by households over time. It is used to track inflation and assess changes in the cost of living. The CPI includes various goods and services such as food, housing, transportation, healthcare, and education. By tracking changes in CPI, policymakers and economists can analyze inflation trends and make adjustments to policies and wages. The CPI formula would be the cost of basket in the current period divided by the cost of basket in the base period times 100. An oligopoly is a market structure characterized by a small number of large firms dominating the industry, leading to limited competition and interdependence among the firms. Industries such as automobile manufacturing, airline, and telecommunications often exhibit oligopoly characteristics, with a few major players dominating the market. Someone has to tell me if I'm pronouncing that right. I cannot tell. A monopoly exists when a single firm is the sole provider of a particular product or service in the market, giving it significant control over pricing and supply. One of the biggest monopolies is De Beers Group, which dominates the diamond industry. It's an example of a monopoly. It controls a large portion of the diamond production, distribution, and the pricing. And last but not least, the safety net refers to the various social welfare programs, policies, and assistance measures provided by government or organizations to support individuals or families facing economic hardships or need of basic necessities. Some examples of the safety net programs are welfare, food stamps, unemployment benefits, housing assistance, and healthcare subsidies. And these are my reference, and that's all for my presentation.